Earth's night sky had always been filled with mystery, but on an ordinary Tuesday evening in April 2089, that mystery transformed into something tangible. A signal, unmistakably artificial, reached Earth's deep space listening stations. Commander Alan Foster sat bolt upright in his chair when the alert came through. After 15 years at the Global Space Agency's SETI division, he'd grown accustomed to false alarms. This was different. "Bring it up on the main screen," he ordered, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. The signal pattern displayed as a series of rhythmic pulses, too regular to be natural. The room fell silent as everyone realized what they were witnessing. "It's definitely not one of ours," said Dr. Lisa Bryant, entering the control room. Her expertise in xenolinguistics had been theoretical until now. "And it's aimed directly at us." For 3 days, the best minds on Earth worked to decode the message. Dr. Bryant barely slept, her office walls covered with printouts and diagrams. On the 4th day, she called an emergency meeting. "It's a warning," she explained to the assembled scientists and military personnel. "From what I can decipher, it's from a civilization that calls themselves the Bajorans. They're warning us about something called the Collective, a galactic empire that moves from system to system, assimilating or destroying everything in its path." The room erupted in questions and theories, but Alan raised his hand for silence. "Is there more?" Lisa nodded. "The Bajorans say the Collective has already conquered 17 civilizations in our galactic arm. They believe Earth is next." Within a week, the United Nations convened a special session. For the first time in human history, all nations agreed on something: survival. The United Defense Initiative was formed, combining military resources and scientific knowledge from every country. Admiral Kate Sullivan, a decorated veteran of the Mars conflicts, was appointed to lead the UDI's Space Force. Her first address to the global community was broadcast worldwide. "We've spent centuries fighting each other," she said, her gray eyes reflecting the determination that had carried her through 3 wars. "Now we face something bigger than our differences. If this threat is real, we'll need every resource, every mind, and every brave soul willing to stand for humanity." Dr. Rick Miller, a physicist whose warp theory experiments had been dismissed as fantasy, was suddenly the most important scientist on Earth. His lab became the center of humanity's technological revolution. "The good news," Rick explained during a briefing with Admiral Sullivan, "is that my team's work on experimental warp technology isn't just theoretical. We've created small-scale prototypes that actually work." "How long until we can build something that carries people?" Sullivan asked. "With unlimited resources, maybe 2 years." "You have one," she replied. Around the world, factories converted to building components for Earth's first true starships. Children looked to the stars with a mix of wonder and fear. Adults learned new skills, preparing for roles in humanity's greatest adventure. 6 months after the signal, another message arrived from the Bajorans. This one contained coordinates, technical specifications, and a desperate plea. "They're coming sooner than we thought. Prepare yourselves." Commander Foster, now heading the Signal Intelligence Division, worked with Dr. Bryant to send a response. Message received. Humanity stands ready. As the first anniversary of the signal approached, the UDI unveiled Earth's first interstellar vessel. Named the Defiant, it represented humanity's refusal to vanish quietly into the night. Admiral Sullivan stood before the massive ship during the launching ceremony. "Today, we take our first step into a larger universe, not as Americans, Russians, Chinese, or Europeans, but as humans. Whatever waits for us among the stars will find that Earth doesn't surrender easily." The crew of 300 boarded the ship, knowing they might be humanity's first and last line of defense against an enemy they'd never seen. The Defiant slipped silently through the darkness between stars. Captain Greg Martinez stood on the bridge, watching the unfamiliar constellations on the view screen. 3 months had passed since they left Earth's solar system. Their mission was simple: observe, gather intelligence, and return home without being detected. Status report, Greg said, his voice low despite knowing that sound couldn't travel through space. All systems normal, Captain, replied Lieutenant Natalie Chen, the ship's science officer. Her eyes rarely left her monitoring station these days. We're approaching the coordinates from the Bajoran message. The crew had settled into their roles during the journey. Some days felt almost routine, despite being farther from Earth than any humans had ever traveled. But today, tension filled the recycled air. Captain, you should see this, Natalie called out. Her usually calm voice wavered slightly. Greg moved to her station. On her screen, images showed the remnants of what had once been a civilization. Massive structures floated in pieces around a dying planet. Some fragments still showed signs of advanced technology. How long ago? Greg asked. Based on radiation decay, about 60 Earth years, Natalie replied. And it's not the only one. I've detected similar destruction patterns in 3 nearby systems. Over the next week, the Defiant charted a careful course through what appeared to be a graveyard of worlds. Each planet told the same story. Advanced civilizations suddenly and violently ended. Jack Wilson, the communications specialist, made the next discovery. Captain, I'm picking up transmissions. Definitely artificial, definitely not human or Bajoran based on the patterns. Can you locate the source? Greg asked. Jack nodded. Multiple sources, converging on a system about 3 light years from our position. Greg made a decision. Set course, but maintain stealth protocols. All non-essential systems powered down. 2 days later, the Defiant watched from the shadow of a large moon as ships unlike anything humans had imagined appeared above a blue-green planet. The alien vessels resembled massive hives, irregular and organic in design despite their metallic construction. Those must be collective ships, Greg whispered. Captain, the planet shows signs of pre-spaceflight civilization, Natalie reported. Similar development level to Earth's early 21st century. The crew watched in horror as the collective ships surrounded the planet. No communication attempts were made. No warnings given. The attack began with precise strikes against major population centers. We have to help them, said Ben Rodriguez, tactical officer, his hands hovering over the weapons controls. Greg placed a hand on his shoulder. We can't. The Defiant isn't a warship. Our job is to bring this intelligence back to Earth. For 3 days, they recorded everything. The methodical destruction, the harvesting of resources, the collection of biological specimens from the planet. Jack managed to intercept and record the collective's communications, providing valuable data for Earth's linguists. Ben spent his off-duty hours designing modifications to the Defiant systems. I think I can enhance our stealth capabilities, he explained to Greg. They use a specific scanning frequency range. If we adjust our shield harmonics, we might become completely invisible to them. The modifications proved essential when a collective scout ship altered course unexpectedly, passing within detection range of the Defiant. The crew held their breath as the alien vessel moved past them without slowing. After gathering all possible data, Greg gave the order to return to Earth. The journey home felt longer than the outbound trip, each crew member carrying the weight of what they'd witnessed. When Earth finally appeared on their view screen, many crew members wept openly. The blue planet seemed so fragile now, so vulnerable in the vastness of space. Send the transmission, Greg ordered. All data, highest priority. The message that reached Earth contained just 3 additional words from Captain Martinez. They're coming here. The day Earth feared arrived without warning. UDI sensors detected unusual energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. Within hours, 5 collective scout ships appeared near Neptune's orbit. Eric Campbell, UDI chief strategist, activated the planetary defense protocols he had developed over the past 18 months. Air raid sirens wailed across every city on Earth. Civilians rushed to underground shelters, while military personnel reported to their stations. This isn't a drill, Eric announced to the Global Defense Council. First contact with collective forces has been confirmed. All units are to follow the Zeus protocol. Admiral Sullivan, back on Earth after commanding the Defiance mission, took control of the orbital defense stations. Earth's newly constructed fleet of 27 combat vessels moved into defensive positions around the planet. They're faster than we anticipated, Admiral Sullivan noted as she watched the collective ships accelerate toward Earth. All ships maintain formation. Do not engage until they cross Mars orbit. Major Olivia Wright led the 1st Fighter Squadron. Her unit of 30 pilots had trained relentlessly in the new spacecraft, equipped with technology reverse-engineered from the Bajoran data. As the collective ships crossed the designated defense line, she gave the order to attack. "Remember your training," she said over the comm system. "Hit and run patterns. Don't stay in their targeting range for more than 3 seconds." The first battle between humanity and the collective unfolded in the space between Mars and Earth. The collective ships, seemingly surprised by the resistance, initially struggled to target the smaller, more agile human fighters. Sam Peterson, the engineer who had developed the weapons systems for Earth's defenders, watched nervously from mission control. His experimental graviton torpedoes were untested in actual combat. "Major Wright, target their propulsion systems," Sam suggested through the command channel. "The simulation showed that's their vulnerable point." Olivia adjusted her approach, diving beneath one of the collective vessels. She fired a graviton torpedo directly at the glowing section near what appeared to be the ship's engines. The explosion that followed was more powerful than anyone had expected, tearing the alien craft apart. "It worked," Olivia exclaimed. "All fighters, target propulsion systems with graviton torpedoes." The collective ships attempted to adjust their tactics, but they had clearly not expected such effective resistance from what they presumed to be a pre-interstellar civilization. 3 of their scout ships were destroyed in the initial engagement. The remaining 2 broke off the attack and retreated toward the outer solar system. But Earth's victory came at a cost. 17 fighters had been destroyed, and one of Earth's defensive cruisers was severely damaged. The orbital station above Asia had taken a direct hit, killing hundreds of personnel. As the immediate threat subsided, Lieutenant Maria Sanchez made a critical discovery. Her damage assessment team found one of the collective scout ships had not been completely destroyed. Its central section remained largely intact as it drifted in orbit around Earth. "Admiral, I'm requesting permission to board the alien vessel," Maria reported. "My team is prepared for the risks." Admiral Sullivan hesitated only briefly before approving the mission. "Proceed with extreme caution, Lieutenant. Any intelligence you can gather will be invaluable." Maria led a team of 6 specialists in boarding the damaged collective ship. What they found inside changed humanity's understanding of their enemy. The vessel contained no living crew members, only biomechanical entities that appeared to be part organic, part machine. "They're not alive in the way we understand life," Maria reported back. "But they're not simple robots either. It's like they've merged living tissue with technology." The team recovered data storage devices and technology samples before returning to Earth. Scientists began immediate analysis, hoping to gain insights before the inevitable second attack. In the aftermath, Eric Campbell addressed the Global Defense Council. "Today we won a small victory. But make no mistake, this was only a scouting force. The collective will return with a full invasion fleet. We must prepare accordingly." Dr. Paul Johnson hadn't slept in 48 hours. The captured collective technology scattered across his laboratory represented the most complex puzzle humanity had ever faced. His team of scientists worked tirelessly, taking apart and studying every component from the damaged scout ship. "Look at this neural interface," Paul said, holding up a small device that glowed with an eerie blue light. "It's designed to connect directly to a biological brain. The technology is decades beyond anything we've developed." As Earth prepared for the next collective attack, the UDI established a special intelligence division focused solely on understanding their enemy. Agent Heather Davis, who had previously worked for international counterterrorism units, volunteered for the most dangerous mission yet, infiltrating a collective outpost discovered on Europa, Jupiter's moon. The captured vessel data suggests they've established a listening post there. Heather explained during her mission briefing. If I can get inside, I might learn their next moves. Using a modified stealth shuttle, Heather landed on Europa's icy surface, 3 kilometers from the collective facility. The bitter cold and thin atmosphere made every step in her specialized suit difficult. After 15 hours of careful approach, she reached the outpost's external access point. I'm in position, she whispered into her comm unit, beginning infiltration procedure. Back on Earth, Ryan Cooper monitored Heather's progress. As the UDI's top computer specialist, he had developed a program that could potentially interface with collective systems. When Heather connected his device to a terminal inside the outpost, Ryan's screen filled with alien data streams. It's working, he said, fingers flying across his keyboard. Their security protocols are complex, but they follow recognizable patterns. I need about 10 minutes to bypass them. 8 minutes later, Ryan gained access to the collective's communication network. What he found confirmed their worst fears. The scouts had been just the beginning. A massive fleet was assembling at the edge of the solar system. Meanwhile, Heather explored the physical facility, placing surveillance devices and taking samples. In a secure chamber, she discovered maps of the galaxy with markers indicating collective-controlled territories. They're everywhere, she reported, snapping images with her tactical gear. Hundreds of star systems, all under their control. But there are also regions marked with different symbols, possibly other powers or resistant areas. As Heather prepared to exit, she narrowly avoided detection by 2 biomechanical collective entities. Their movements were precise but oddly rhythmic, suggesting a hive-like coordination. She recorded their behavior before escaping back to her shuttle. The intelligence gathered from both the digital infiltration and Heather's mission revealed the hierarchical structure of the collective. Ryan identified communication patterns suggesting a centralized command system. They're not truly independent units, he explained to the UDI Council. They receive instructions from command hubs, which in turn report to higher control centers. If we can disrupt this chain, we might be able to confuse their forces. Intelligence Officer Michelle Baker led the analysis team sorting through the newly acquired data. After days of intensive work, she identified the locations of several collective staging areas. They have supply lines, Michelle explained, pointing to star charts. Just like any military force, they need resources, energy, and materials to maintain their expansion. If we target these points, we might slow them down. Admiral Sullivan and Eric Campbell developed a bold strategy based on this intelligence. Rather than waiting for the next attack on Earth, they would send strike teams to hit vulnerable collective targets before the main invasion force could mobilize. We're not just fighting for survival anymore, Admiral Sullivan told the assembled UDI leaders. We're taking the fight to them. As Earth's military prepared for the unprecedented offensive, Dr. Johnson's team made another breakthrough. By studying the captured neural interfaces, they discovered a potentially critical weakness in the collective's unified consciousness. They share information instantly across their network, Paul explained. But this also means they share vulnerabilities. If we can introduce a targeted disruption sequence, we might be able to temporarily paralyze their communication systems. The knowledge gatherers had done their work. Now, humanity prepared to show the collective they had chosen the wrong species to conquer. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UDI flagship Intrepid, watching the stars streak by as the vessel traveled at warp speed. Earth was now millions of kilometers behind them. Ahead lay the unknown, and the enemy. Approaching target system, Admiral, reported the navigation officer, dropping out of warp in 30 seconds. Kate had commanded naval vessels on Earth's oceans for decades, but nothing had prepared her for commanding a fleet in space. Still, the principles remained the same. Protect your people, strike decisively, and adapt faster than your enemy. All ships, battle formation Delta, she ordered. Remember our objectives. Disable their resource collectors and free any captive species if possible. The fleet of 15 Earth vessels emerged from warp speed near a small planet orbiting a red dwarf star. According to intelligence, this was a collective mining operation using enslaved beings from conquered worlds as labor. Commander Frank Morris had developed the attack strategy. As the former leader of Special Forces operations in Earth's final regional conflicts, he understood asymmetric warfare better than anyone. "We hit them from multiple vectors," Frank explained during the final briefing. "The collective expects direct confrontation. They don't understand guerrilla tactics." The smaller Earth vessels split into 3 groups, approaching from different directions while using asteroids and planetary bodies for cover. The collective's defensive systems detected them too late. "First wave, engage," Kate ordered. Earth's ships struck simultaneously, targeting power systems and communication arrays identified in the intelligence briefings. The collective vessels, caught off guard, struggled to coordinate their defense. "Their ships are built for overwhelming force, not speed," Frank observed as the battle unfolded. "Our maneuverability is giving us the advantage." Within hours, the Earth forces had disabled the orbital facilities. Captain Diana Russell led the ground team to the planet's surface. What they found shocked even the most hardened soldiers. 3 different alien species worked under horrific conditions in the mines. Some had been partially converted with collective technology. Others were kept in containment cells when not working. "We're here to help," Diana told the first group they freed, using the universal translator developed from the Bajoran data. "We're fighting the collective." One of the aliens, a tall being with iridescent skin, responded in halting translated speech. "You fight." Many tried. All failed. "We're different," Diana replied. "We're human." As the Earth forces evacuated the captives, the alien, who identified himself as Kor-El of the Naran people, explained that his homeworld had been conquered 30 years earlier. Other survivors were scattered across collective territory. "There are resistance groups," he said, "hidden, waiting for a chance to strike back." Diana saw an opportunity. Would these groups be willing to work with us? Together, we might stand a chance. Within weeks, Earth ships had made contact with resistance factions from 7 different conquered species. Captain Diana Russell worked tirelessly to establish diplomatic connections, learning about each culture and finding common ground. On a hidden moon base in a remote system, representatives from these groups met with Earth's delegation. Admiral Sullivan addressed the gathering. "We may look different. We may come from different worlds. But we share one thing: a determination to live free from collective control. Today, I propose we formalize our cooperation." The Alliance of Free Worlds was established that day, with Earth as a founding member. Each species brought unique knowledge and abilities to the coalition. Meanwhile, engineer Kevin Phillips led a team adapting collective technology for human use. By studying captured devices and working with alien engineers, they developed hybrid systems that combined human ingenuity with advanced alien principles. "Their technology is more efficient," Kevin explained during a demonstration, "but ours is more creative. By merging the 2 approaches, we're creating something the collective has never encountered." As the newly formed alliance forces won small victories across multiple systems, word spread. The collective, for the first time in centuries, faced organized resistance that used unpredictable tactics. Earth ships appeared without warning, struck critical targets, and disappeared before retaliation could arrive. They freed enslaved populations, sabotaged collective operations, and gradually expanded Alliance territory. The galaxy was beginning to whisper about the newcomers, the humans who refused to surrender and fought with a ferocity that bewildered the collective's ordered mind. The collective's response to humanity's insurgency came with overwhelming force. Thousands of ships, larger and more powerful than any previously encountered, emerged from deeper space. Their target was clear: Earth itself. "They're bypassing our forward bases," reported the Alliance monitoring station. "This isn't a tactical response. It's a punitive expedition." UDI Director Laura Thompson received the warning in her underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. The facility had been built in anticipation of this moment, designed to coordinate Earth's defense, even if the surface became uninhabitable. "Activate the Infinite Wrath Protocol," Laura ordered, her voice steady despite the gravity of her decision. Authorization Thompson Omega-73. The Infinite Wrath Protocol had been developed as humanity's final option, a contingency plan so extreme that only 5 people on Earth knew its full scope. The protocol had been named for the message Earth intended to send to the galaxy: mess with humanity at your peril. Scientists Nick Harrison and Tanya Peterson had spent 2 years perfecting the technology that made infinite wrath possible. Using principles discovered in the Bajoran data combined with Earth's advances in particle physics, they had created devices capable of inducing artificial supernovas. "We've completed the final calibrations," Nick reported from his lab. "The nova inducers are ready for deployment. Are you sure this is necessary?" Tanya asked Laura during the final briefing. "Once we cross this line, there's no going back." Laura's expression remained grim. "The collective doesn't negotiate. They don't show mercy. If we don't stop them here, humanity ends." As the massive collective armada approached the Alpha Centauri system, now an Alliance outpost, Admiral Sullivan implemented the first phase of the protocol. All Alliance personnel and civilian populations were evacuated from the system. "All ships accounted for," her executive officer confirmed. "Nearest collective vessels will reach Alpha Centauri in 20 minutes. Deploy the Nova Inducer," Sullivan ordered. A small, unassuming device was left behind in the system's main star. When the collective fleet arrived to secure their first stepping stone to Earth, they found nothing unusual. Their sensors detected no Alliance ships, no active defenses. Then the star began to destabilize. The process took only minutes. Nuclear fusion accelerated beyond control, energy output increasing exponentially. The star consumed itself from within, then exploded with the force of 1,000 normal supernovas. The blast wave vaporized everything in the system and extended far beyond, catching nearly a third of the collective fleet in its destructive radius. The message sent by this action reached the collective high command within hours. For the first time in their long history of conquest, they faced a species willing to destroy entire star systems rather than submit. The Nova Inducers have been placed in 17 systems between here and Earth. Admiral Sullivan transmitted on an open channel that the collective could intercept. "Each one will be triggered if your forces advance. You can destroy us, but we guarantee you'll lose half your fleet in the process." The collective forces paused their advance. Their centralized intelligence processed this new information, calculating outcomes and probabilities. Before they could decide, Earth forces triggered another Nova Inducer in an uninhabited system directly in the path of the collective fleet. The message was clear. This was not a bluff. The collective high command, an entity that had never known defeat, faced an unprecedented situation. The humans were not following any known pattern of behavior. Other species fought for survival, but none had ever employed such a scorched earth strategy on a galactic scale. "We have nothing to lose," Admiral Sullivan continued in her broadcast. "You've seen what happens to worlds under your control. We prefer oblivion to enslavement. This is humanity's promise. Advance, and we will burn everything between us, including ourselves if necessary." Probes sent by Alliance intelligence confirmed that the collective armada had halted its advance. For 3 days, their ships remained in position, neither retreating nor continuing toward Earth. Then, a transmission arrived from the collective, the first attempt at communication they had ever initiated with the species they targeted for conquest. "Your species is irrational," the message stated simply. "Explain your terms." Humanity had found the one thing the perfectly logical collective could not comprehend: a willingness to destroy everything rather than surrender. The treaty signing took place on a neutral space station constructed specifically for the occasion. Representatives from Earth stood across the table from the biomechanical entities that embodied the collective consciousness. Neither side trusted the other, but both recognized the necessity of the moment. "The terms are non-negotiable," said Admiral Sullivan, sliding the data tablet across the table. "The Collective will withdraw from all systems currently claimed by the Alliance of Free Worlds. A buffer zone of 30 light-years will be established between our territories." The Collective representative, a tall, gray-skinned being with visible cybernetic implants, reviewed the document. Its movements were precise, almost mechanical, but its eyes revealed a biological intelligence evaluating each word carefully. "These terms limit our expansion in this sector significantly," it responded in a flat, synthesized voice. "What guarantees do we have that your species will not continue to use Nova inducers against our remaining territories?" "The same guarantee you offer us. Mutual destruction benefits no one," Sullivan replied. "But make no mistake, if the Collective crosses the buffer zone, Infinite Wrath will be reactivated immediately." After 26 hours of tense negotiation, the treaty was finalized. For the first time in its 1,000-year expansion, the Collective had been forced to recognize another power's sovereignty. The news spread quickly through Alliance space and beyond. Worlds that had lived under Collective rule for generations began to whisper of resistance. Planets that had hidden their technological development for fear of attracting attention now reached out to the Alliance. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted. Captain Andrea Miller, commanding the Alliance vessel, Horizon, led the first peacekeeping mission to the former Collective world of Lizara. The native population, 6-limbed beings with translucent skin, had been under Collective control for over a century. "We don't come as conquerors," Andrea told the Lysaran leaders as they met in their rebuilt capital city. "The Alliance offers membership, not subjugation. Your world remains yours." Similar scenes played out across dozens of liberated planets. Some joined the Alliance immediately, grateful for protection against potential Collective return. Others chose independence, wary of any interstellar power after their experience. Back on Earth, the UDI established a warning beacon system at the edge of Alliance space. These advanced devices broadcast a simple message in all known languages, including the Collective's digital communication codes. Engineer Cole Jackson supervised the project personally. "The beacons need to be clear and unmistakable," Cole explained to his team. "Any ship entering our space needs to understand exactly who we are and what we're capable of." The message that emanated from these beacons became known throughout the galaxy. "You are approaching territory of the Alliance of Free Worlds, founded by humanity. We offer friendship to those who respect our sovereignty. We offer infinite wrath to those who threaten our existence. Choose carefully." 5 years after the treaty signing, the galaxy had transformed. Trade routes connected formerly isolated worlds. Cultural exchanges flourished between species that had never known of each other's existence. The Alliance expanded not through conquest, but through mutual protection and cooperation. The Collective remained a threat, but a contained one. Their expansion continued in other directions, away from Alliance space. Occasional probes tested the buffer zone, but always withdrew when confronted. On the 10th anniversary of First Contact Day, Admiral Sullivan, now retired, stood before the United Earth Council to reflect on humanity's journey. "We came to the stars unprepared for what we would find," she said. "We faced extinction and responded with determination that shocked a galactic power. But our greatest achievement isn't survival, it's what we've built since. The Alliance represents something new. Diverse worlds united not by force or fear, but by shared principles of freedom and self-determination." As Sullivan spoke, Alliance ships patrolled the borders of their space. On distant worlds, humans worked alongside aliens to build new civilizations. Children of a dozen species learned each other's languages and customs. And at the edge of Alliance territory, the warning beacons continued their endless broadcast, a reminder to the galaxy that humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors or victims, but as defenders of a new order based on respect rather than subjugation. 50 years after the treaty with the Collective, Humanity had spread throughout Alliance space. Human colonies thrived on distant worlds, while Earth itself had become the diplomatic center of the galaxy. Yet despite the peace, Admiral Sullivan's warning remained. Eternal vigilance was the price of freedom. In the observation deck of Unity Station, the massive space platform orbiting Earth, Ambassador Jake Powell watched ships from 20 different worlds dock and depart. At 78, he had witnessed humanity's journey from fearful defenders to respected leaders. "Quite a view, isn't it?" asked a voice behind him. Jake turned to see Cora, the Bajoran representative whose ancestors had sent the original warning to Earth. Over the decades, the Bajorans had become humanity's closest allies. "I never tire of it," Jake replied. "My grandfather told me stories about hiding in bunkers when the first collective scouts arrived. Now look at us." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent message. Director Zoe Daniels of Alliance Intelligence requested their immediate presence in the secure conference room. "We've detected unusual activity beyond the buffer zone," Zoe explained when they arrived. Holographic star charts filled the air around them, highlighting a cluster of systems near collective space. Long-range sensors show massive energy signatures consistent with fleet movements. "The collective wouldn't risk breaking the treaty," Jake said, though uncertainty tinged his voice. "Not after 50 years. "It's not the collective," Zoe replied. "Our intelligence suggests it's something else entirely. Something that even the collective fears." Reports from deep space probes revealed a disturbing pattern. Entire collective systems had gone silent. The buffer zone established by the treaty now served as humanity's early warning system for a new threat. Within days, the Alliance Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from all member worlds gathered on Unity Station. The mood was tense as Zoe presented the latest intelligence. "We believe it's an extragalactic species," she explained. "Our analysts call them void walkers based on intercepted collective transmissions. They appear to travel through subspace, emerging into normal space to consume energy and resources." "Are they sentient?" asked the Lissaran representative. "Unknown," Zoe answered, "but they're methodical. They strip systems completely. Stars, planets, everything reduced to base particles." The Alliance faced its greatest challenge since formation. The Void Walkers had already consumed 3 collective systems and showed no signs of communication or negotiation. In a surprising development, a collective representative requested an audience with the Alliance Council. The biomechanical entity entered the chamber amid whispers and stares. "We propose a temporary alliance," it stated without preamble. "The entities you have detected cannot be reasoned with. They exist only to consume. Our analysis projects they will reach Alliance space within 1 standard year." Jake Powell, who had dedicated his life to diplomacy after the war, found himself advocating for cooperation with their former enemy. "If these Void Walkers are as dangerous as both our intelligence suggests, we need every advantage." The debate lasted for days. Some counselors remembered the collective's brutality too well to trust them. Others saw no choice but to unite against a common threat. Young Captain Eliza Wilson, granddaughter of a defiant crew member, offered the perspective that finally swayed the council. The Infinite Wrath Protocol showed the galaxy that humanity would rather destroy everything than submit. Now we have a chance to show that we'll fight just as hard to protect life. The historic Joint Defense Pact was signed 3 weeks later. Alliance and collective ships began joint patrols along the approach vector of the Void Walkers. Scientists from both civilizations shared technology and research. As preparations intensified, Jake Powell stood again at the observation window. The fleet assembling beyond was the largest ever seen in the galaxy, ships of every design and origin, united in purpose. Grandfather would never have believed it, he murmured to himself. The collective and humanity, fighting side by side. A young lieutenant passing by overheard him. "Sir, is it true you were there when the treaty was signed?" Jake nodded. "I was just an aide then. I remember Admiral Sullivan saying something I never forgot. Today we showed the galaxy our wrath. Tomorrow we'll show them our wisdom." As the joint fleet prepared to depart, humanity faced a new chapter in its galactic story, no longer just defenders of their own existence, but protectors of all life against the darkness between the stars.